Well, when I was a kid, they used to have TV artist, and I used to watch him. I forgot his name, and that inspired me with art. I was very young, and I used to doodle and copy like comic books and things like that when you're a kid. But I was more bohemian back then, and I was into the arts. I always dabbled in making things, sketching things, and when I saw an opportunity to go to this art school in Manhattan from Brooklyn, I took advantage of it right away. My father wasn't very happy with it. He said, "What are you going to be, an artist? What are you crazy?" And my mother, she encouraged me. She says, "Go with what you love."
So you did have that person pushing
back.
Was there any of those moments?
Actually, no, because I was young. I was in Brooklyn, and there was no museums or anything that I could go to at that time. But I started to when I was going to school in Manhattan. Go to Guggenheim, go to Whitney, and all those. Go down to Greenwich Village, see the artwork in the windows. All those things inspire you. And then you get to know your favorites, your artists that you enjoy, like Picasso, Jackson Pollock, so forth and so on. I started out doing people from the 30s and 40s, from old photographs, black and whites. I started doing that, but I always loved the contemporary. Back then it was abstract. First it was modern, then it was abstract, now it's contemporary. So
it's changed. It's changed from the description.
Yes.
Of the type of painting.
Terminologies for the art at the present time. And what I do is also, besides the contemporary, I do contemporary collages with acrylic. It's another new thing I do. Then I started moving on to wood sculpture, metal sculpture.
Is this a collage right behind you, right there?
Yes, that's a collage right there.
Can you talk about that behind you?
The one behind me, it's called Brooklyn Girl, and it's a black and white collage, also with acrylic. And when I do collages, I try to give texture, balance, and depth within the painting. But that also goes for my contemporary paintings also. Yeah, well, my mentor back then was a sculptor teacher. His name was Frank Creaturo, and he used to do beeswax with mussels, and he was like my mentor. He designed the Heisman Trophy, the Satchmo Award. He did pieces for the Vatican.
That's amazing.
In fact, when I found out that he lived here in Sarasota, I went to visit him, and he was working on a big head, almost like a Moses. He was doing for a synagogue, huge piece. And to show you his concept, instead of laying on the floor working on the beard, he put 2 pins and he put a mirror, so he was working from backwards. That's how talented he was. No, what happened was I moved to Long Island from Brooklyn, moved to West Islip and Long Island, and I went into silk screening. It was a big plant, and I was a helper on silk screen printer. Then I became a printer. Then at 19, I was a foreman, and I had like 30 people under me, and it was doing collating and packing, laying out projects, laying out jigs to do plexiglass. It's all part of the arts.
So at the time you're working there, are you still working on your art at home?
Yeah, at home I always painted and did local art shows in Long Island, in the Hamptons, in Babylon, Long Island, in different areas. I was in a couple of galleries, but I didn't focus totally on my paintings other than doing it on the side because I had to make money.
What is the struggle like as a 19-year-old artist trying to get out in the world?
I was lucky enough that they liked my work and it was marketable for the galleries that I was in. One woman had a gallery in Huntington. She closed the gallery and turned her home into a gallery. And she would have parties for people to come and visit, and then also by appointments come back for paintings or sculptures or jewelry. And it was an experience.
What's the process of a young guy selling his art? Like, do you have a portfolio? You walk in the door with a big portfolio of photos? Or?
Actually, no. Actually, I brought the actual paintings.
You brought the painting in and you
to show them and see if it was marketable. So
did you have to do the subway, or you ride the bus, or?
Oh no, this was in Long Island when I was driving.
You could drive, so.
Yes.
Because I was picturing somebody walking around with a big painting on a subway.
Well, on the subway when I was going to art school, I had an attaché case at 14, and you had to take a sketch pad and sketch the people on the train. And some people would like smile and whatever, and then some people said, "What are you doing?" But it all worked out.
So, at what point do you start up the bar?
Well, what happened is a gentleman had it was a catering hall, and he wasn't making any money, and that's how I got into club business. So I asked him, give it to me one weekend for Friday and Saturday night.
Was it somebody you knew?
Yes. And I'll advertise it, I'll pay for the bounces, and I want 10% of the bar, and I'll get the door. Back then it was $2 to get in, and you were 18, you can drink in New York. So with that, Friday night when we first opened, 480 kids came in, and then Saturday 520 came in. The CO was 550 the club would hold. And that's how I got into having a club, and also then I produced rock and roll shows from that, because managers would come to me to have their groups perform.
What was the name of the place?
Golden Pheasant, and it was in West Islip. From running the club, I wind up moving to England for some time doing rock and roll shows. When I came back to Long Island, that's when I buckled down and started doing what I loved, meaning my art.
Were you promoting?
I was promoting United Artists Theaters. I was doing concerts. And then what happened was I owned another bar called the Choo Choo Inn in Bayshore, and it was next to the train station. So with that, at the time I was going through a divorce, and I said, that's it, I'm moving to Florida. And that's when I buckled down and got a studio and started painting and getting into galleries. And that's when I really moved forward, and that was almost 30 years ago when I started really seriously just doing my art.
1980s?
Yeah. When I actually sold something, it just pushed me even further. Like, I felt good, I felt happy about it, and I said, I must be doing good, and I want to create more. And every time I sell a painting, it gives me that enthusiasm to move forward and create more. And I vary. I mean, I go from one extreme to the next. I'm very eclectic. I paint people from the 30s and 40s, contemporary collages, wood sculpture, metal sculpture. I'm constantly trying to push the envelope, so to speak. And I'm always branching out to something new. I would say my biggest sellers are the contemporary. but the most response that I get is because of my paintings of the 30s and 40s that people could relate to, like a chicken market, front of a chicken market store that I did, kids playing out in the street, like I grew up in Brooklyn with chalk drawings when kids played with each other, not like today, they don't even know their next door neighbor, they walk around just texting. This is one of my outdoor sculptures, or it could be indoor, and the back is a grade, and it's aluminum, and then all of this is PVC piping with a little metal, and what I like to do is use balance and color, like I've been mentioning, and it's kind of cool. It speaks for itself.
This is one of your popular pieces because
yeah.
you said this is printed on canvas.
Yeah. This is the Giclée. The original was twice the size, and it's how I grew up in Brooklyn, when kids played with each other, chalk drawings, stickball, marbles, potsy, and it came in first place out of 1,500, and it was for reform school, meaning reform schools, not like when I was a kid. Reform school was for bad kids. Okay, this is collage with acrylics. I cut out photographs, I paint behind it, then I glue the photograph down, and then I paint on top of it. So this is my newest series that I'm doing, Lonely. And this is a Giclée, originally I sold. And it's one of my favorite pieces, a good favorite. This is called Bathing Beauties.
And it seems like, to me, that your style is not defined by one thing. It
No.
seems like you have a wide ranging style. I don't know how to say that, but
Yeah. This one is contemporary, it's acrylic, it's called Diva. This is a perfect example of nostalgia. That one's called The Pump. And I took that from a black and white photo of the Bronx. And what I did was I took some of the buildings away so the pump would show out. And so it looks like more Midwest.
was that taken from a photograph, you said?
Yeah, black and white photograph from the Bronx back in the early days when gas was 11 cents. This is a three-dimensional piece. I call it When I Was a Kid, because kids used to do stuff like this. Jacks when you're a kid, a flute, you save stamps, an old photograph, like if you were a kid, little things that you saved, dice, various items that you collected when you were a kid. What happens is you got to feel confident in yourself, and I did. So I love people, and when I get to talk to people, it just gives me inspiration to move forward. And I feel good about myself to do things and to have good friends and good family. It's all important, it all falls together.
Would you say if you have an idea of something that you want to do off the beaten path, you just have to really keep plugging, just keep going?
Just stay focused. You got to feel good with yourself and good with your surroundings, and just keep on moving forward.